The model of production we use, or we used on the Future Learn MOOCs, I think that, like I said before, there are elements that I think are scalable and that can be brought across, and I think there are some pitfalls in just trying to take the whole model across. I think one of the things is that, like I was saying, once you've decided to do a MOOC, you know what you're doing. It's a constrained subject, and you do it. It's always in an area that we know we have expertise in. And something I haven't mentioned, I think is another key element, is that it's based on research, and active research being conducted at the Open University. I could not have done this if it was outside my area of research. I'd have had to have spent 6 months getting up to a speed where I could just write a side of A4 off the top of my head and know that I'd got it right. But I think the current models around planning modules need to take a lot of time at the start to hit all the benchmarks, to be future-proofed, and to make sure that we're taking on all our knowledge that we have as a distance learning provider in terms of the study journey. And I think there are moves in the university to do that, to try to front-load production, that you put a lot of emphasis at the beginning on learning design and thinking about the course. And I think that needs to be both in terms of the curriculum area and the pedagogy. I think then once you're actually getting into creating those specific elements, I think there are things we can learn from the Future Learn. That kind of idea of digital first, that you're creating materials that will be used in different ways on different platforms, I think will work quite well for a lot of the learning objects we create as part of formal course production. And I think that model of, for me, but I think it could just be my kind of style, the periods of intense working, and then you've done that and you don't come back to it in 5, 6 different iterations. For me, that worked really well. In terms of flexibility of the content, I'm gonna put my hand up and say I'm a huge fan of blended learning, in which we have textbooks and online content. As I was an OU student, and having a book I could read on the train and take with me and find a quiet moment to read was a very important part. I could not have done the modules without that. So I would very much like us to continue to do that. I think what you then have to realise is that if you've written a textbook that will only be updated 4 or 5 years or even 8 years down the line, that the online content has to be more prominent, has to change more often and be more flexible. So I think there are ways of writing the textbook that do future-proof it, and I think there are elements of scientific and social scientific and knowledge and scholarship that aren't going to change, and even if they do change, knowing the fundamentals is important. So actually, that's not too problematic. But I think tying into current events, updating when new knowledge is produced, taking on board new methods and all of those sorts of things is something that's important. But for me, I think we can do that through the online content in a way that blends nicely with the kind of more fixed text.